we have to keep asking ourselves, what's the next wave? What's coming? That mindset, opening up yourself to that sense of whether we like it or not, something is coming. And all I can do is just be ready for it.
Put your hands together for Dr. Larry Olukola, aka TC.
The future of work is tough. They say that 75% of the workforce will be millennials by 2025. 50% of your skills, your current skills, will be obsolete. And beyond 2025, you have to upskill every 6 months.
The workplace is evolving. We're now in an age where people are asking themselves, why do I need 20 years experience to become a CEO? So when you speak to an average person that is below 25, the way they're thinking about you is like, why are you the one there, not me? Why do you even deserve this respect I'm giving you?
I enjoyed learning a bit more about the Nigerian professional landscape.
One new thing that I picked up is the fact that you have to self-disrupt.
It was enlightening. It came from a different perspective. Came from a perspective that was new and fresh.
With the amount of work that I've done to help top organizations in East Africa position for the future that has come, it is important for us to begin the dialogue in Nigeria. And that's why we created this theme, looking at disruption.
Wonderful. So great. We're going to go straight into the keynote fireside chat, and it's going to be with two amazing people. And permit me to read it out. Dr. Larry Olukola, popularly known as The Catalyst, you can call him TC, is renowned for his extensive work in coaching, publishing, and keynote speaking with organizations and individuals. Locally and internationally, he is renowned for pioneering the life coaching industry in Nigeria and creating the first wholly integrative coaching academy in West Africa. He is the chairman of the Life Coaches Association of Nigeria. Ladies, gentlemen, beautiful, handsome people, put your hands together for Dr. Larry Olukola, aka TC. And joining him for this fireside chat is another esteemed gentleman. His name is Aziz Amida. He has 2 decades of professional experience cutting across 6 countries and 12 industries, including telecommunications, FMCG, investment banking, and private equity. Make a worthy welcome to Aziz Amida as he joins Larry Olukola.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. So, Amida, I think the first thing is, it's really great to be with you.
Same here.
I remember the last time we were together was when you were launching your book, Enter, Perform, Exit. And I thought that was a very, very powerful book. Even though, you're not a trained and certified coach, it presents to us the entire philosophy of coaching. And, it's one of the reasons why you're here, at this keynote conversation that we're having. First of all, give us a brief background on your journey to becoming the CEO of Pan-African Towers. How did that happen?
Well, I got lucky. But to come back to it, I think thanks a lot. I think the first time we met was on these Twitter Spaces with Omojua, and I think since then I've followed the work you do. I think I was this guy that was locked up in the box for a long time. I always say the corporate world has this funny way of making heroes look like normal people, and it's something I say very boldly. I think if I could go back 20 years time, the only thing I would change is basically maybe I'll speak up more. I was known to speak up a lot, but I think I would have spoken a lot more than I did. So My journey for me, it's always been, okay, how do we just do the next thing? And I like the fact that today is about disruption, right? And because I think that's something that's always been my own MO for everything. So I started in a small firm in Mushin back then. My salary was like, what, 15,000 naira. I remember back then I would save up 4 months' salary to buy a suit and look good in the office. But I have to walk from Oshodi to Mushin every day. So, but it was fun. So coming through there, I joined IHS 2014, and I was just this very tiny guy. I'm way bigger now. I think I was this very tiny guy, and the CEO then said, "This guy is too small. He can't do this job. You should get rid of him."
Wow.
And then came my first lock. I had a boss that said, "You know what? Let's give him a chance for 6 months." 6 months time, that CEO came to me and said, "Can you find me more people like you?"
Wow.
I said, "Well, I don't think they exist, but I could try." So we ran IHS back then till we went from about $100 million to about $1 billion in less than 5 years, and it was great. So I suddenly got called one day and said, "Okay, you know what?" But before then, the CEO was saying I was not going to wait. That I move a lot around, and I said, "Yeah, I'm not going to wait." I said, "Because I'm going to get bored if you don't make this job very important for me." Went from there, moved me to Rwanda, and said, "Go and do CEO." And they told me, "Just go there and do nothing."
And do nothing.
Do nothing. Just make sure it's working well, life is good. And I said, "You picked the wrong guy," but okay. Got into Rwanda, and then problems started coming. I was like, "Okay, we need to fix it." And in fixing it, the business started growing. And I guess I made too much noise. So we had to split ways. And coming back to Nigeria, it was like, then there were opportunities, but there was no opportunity that was going to give me a CEO work. And I remember my wife would say, "Let's just take anything that comes." I'm like, no. I think I'm very good at this CEO work. So when I joined African Towers, it was like, we can't afford you. I said, "Don't worry." I had to take, I remember, an 80% pay cut.
Wow.
To do that job. We took, and it was like, the partner in KPMG then was saying, "Okay, is everything okay?" I said, "Yeah, I'm good." And went into the company, because my own view was simple. I'm the CEO of the business. The only thing you can tell me is that if I'm not able to earn more money in the next 1 year, then it's my own fault. We took it from basically a valuation then. The company was trading at maybe like an EBITDA of about 4 billion. We took it to about 15 now, running rate. So we've really turned it around. So for me, it's been a very good growth journey. At least, like I said, we happen to have very good customers that just like to deal with my with my stories and promises. And yeah, that's more the whole thing there.
Wow. Well, everybody say from Mushi. that little boy became a CEO, and it's important, for us to take note. And one of the most profound things that I heard is you decided that you would not take less in terms of status, but you would take a pay cut. And this is where a lot of people struggle. They want the position, but they want the pay. But if that role, right, cannot pay it yet, then when you grow the business, then you will earn what you're worth.
I agree.
Very, very powerful lesson. So that meant that, you have a philosophy of disruption.
Oh, yes.
And we live in a very, very interesting world now. I call it the VUCAD world. Volatile, unpredictable, complex, ambiguous, and disruptive world. And if you do not disrupt, you will be disrupted. So there is negative disruption, that is if you maintain your status quo, and then there's positive disruption. So for you, what does positive disruption mean, and how important is positive disruption at this time that we're in?
Well, I think this point is always, when I read economics, so I think there's this theory of monopoly that stuck with me since back then. It's like, when a monopoly exists for too long, It's Schumpeter's theory of creative destruction. That's what it's called. When a monopoly exists for too long, other players will find a way to destroy the product and then bring in new things. You go through the BlackBerry era. People came and said everything. I always tell people, even if BlackBerry created a new iPhone, they would have still died, because the disruption wasn't the phone, it was the operating systems, more or less. You don't have something people like, people don't want it. So, but that's a debatable scenario. But the point is, for me, the biggest disruption I basically take as positive disruption is self-disruption. Because I think every time in my own life, if you give me a room full of 100 people, when people give me JDs, I always say the only time I've actually read a JD was, I think, back in 2007, because I don't think I need one. I always say, you have a problem, it's my problem. For as long as I'm there. And I use these favorite quotes, is that if you go into a bathroom, you use it, you met it bad, it was dirty. You used it, then left. You cleaned you cleaned up, but you left the other side. Then on your way out, somebody that knows you is walking in. Who would they think messed it up? So for me, it's always my problem every time. So the point of self-disruption means you need to always ask yourself, can this be done better? Can this be done better? That way, you're positively preparing yourself for a change that you might not be aware of. Now, it opens you up for two things. When you see a better idea, it's easy to jump on and say, okay, you know what, this is better for me. So before we even talk about any other thing coming from outside, it's important that we all start asking ourselves, this thing I'm doing, can it be done better? And the second part of disruption is something that I feel people might find strange. I think it's delegation. Because the day you are able to delegate to someone what you do is the first day you prepare yourself for positive disruption. Because that means everybody doing anything. AI came from people saying, how can we do things better? It means you've now come to the point that what I'm doing now, I have outgrown it, do it, let me go look for something else. You're stepping into a darkness you don't understand. And which is where, for me as a CEO, that's like if I'm doing something, once I did it once, twice, I'm like, no. Let's find somebody else who handle this going forward. Then you go look for something else that you don't know. On and on. So yeah, so positive disruption is something I think all of us need to have a sense of, you know what, we have to keep asking ourselves, what's the next wave? What's coming? What is this? That mindset, opening up yourself to that sense of, whether we like it or not, something is coming. And all I can do is just be ready for it.
I mean, this is very, very interesting because you're talking about self-disruption, and you're talking about even the fact that we're in a dispensation where if you do not change, then you will die. Yes. Pretty much. So, and you're referring to BlackBerry. I can remember that I used a gem. How many people use a gem? Yeah. Alcatel? Yes. Motorola? You know, how many of us used to go to video clubs? Yeah. Yeah. Where are they today? Nokia 3310. Yeah. You know, the CEO of Nokia, when they interviewed him, he says, we didn't do anything wrong.
Exactly.
They actually didn't do anything wrong. They just continued doing what they were doing. So one of the first questions you want to leave here with is, am I maintaining status quo in my own life, in my role as HR? And is our organization, are we maintaining status quo? Because if you maintain status quo with the rate at which the world is moving now, you are actually regressing. So if you stand on one spot and the world is moving past you, what is happening? You are regressing. Is that really where you want to be? Now the world of work has changed, and you know we live in a world that looks into the future and anticipates the future. So, as a CEO, right? What are people getting wrong about the future of work and the world of work?
Okay, can you permit me to just hold that? Because I think I've been meaning to ask this question. Okay, so it's like the third conference you're having. What has kept you going? Because I think that question would affect a lot.
All right. So I'll tell a story. 2019, round about July. I'd done this for about 18 years, thereabout. And, we're turning around organizations, we're doing great things, but I was no longer satisfied. And I had about maybe 25 staff and maybe about 30, contract staff. And I said to myself, you know what, I'm not going to maintain status quo. Let me shut down the whole business. Now, this is 18 years that I've run a coaching business. So I shut the business down and I paid my staff off. And I got an HR consultant. I got a business consultant. I got a brand consultant. I got 3 consultants. And I said to them, look at the industry. Look at my business and look at me as a brand and tell me if I'm still relevant or not. And they went on for about 3 months and they came back with a report. And I sat with that report for about a month. And I designed the next 20 years of, the impact that I wanted to make. And I realized that very few people can do what I did. Very few people can pause, reflect, and reinvent. And I thought it was important to be that person that helps facilitate that kind of a thinking. So we did the first, we did the second. In the last, since COVID, everything changed. And what we did in 2019 actually created leverage for us, because one of the main strategies that the business consultants proposed was go online. And I was thinking, online care. All my coaching certification programs, all my psychology certification programs, and everything that I did was physical. Go online and do what? How? But what it did for me was from October 2019, I started to think about how to pivot. Now, I had an HR consultant that said that to me. If we hadn't pivoted, the business would have died with COVID. So we went on to think about how we can take all our programs online. Now, we realized that it was not going to be the same when we started. The experience that we create in our certification programs are very experiential. But we came up with innovative ideas on how to create the experiences online. And when February hit us, we naturally pivoted. And because of that, we thought, how many other organizations, how many other individuals, how many other businesses will be suffering from this? And that was what birthed, the annual HR dialogues that we do. And this one is particularly very, very important. I've done quite a bit of work more outside Nigeria in the last 2 years. More in East Africa, Rwanda, Uganda, Kenya. And, they're more serious about taking disruption seriously than we are out here in Nigeria. And I thought, with the amount of work that I've done to help top organizations in East Africa position for the future that has come, it is important for us to begin the dialogue in Nigeria. And that's why we created this theme, looking at disruption. And it's just creating the platforms and the opportunities for us to engage and have conversations about transformation. Because, many of us point fingers at the government and say government must change so that they change Nigeria. But very few of us realize that there is no Nigeria without each of us. There is no Nigeria without the businesses. If you looked at China, you looked at America, right? America and China, what they are today because of the successful entrepreneurs and the businesses, right? Yeah, government will create an enabling environment, but we also have a role to play. And so for me, it is asking, what can we do? If disruption is here, if change is required, then we need to begin to think through, and we need to begin to self-disrupt, like you said. And so that's what is driving this.
Wow. I think you said something very important, that a lot of professionals don't, because when you go to a law firm and you're an accountant, nobody listens to you. But in your own scenario, you said something. You've done HR coaching for 18 years. Then suddenly you got a consultant. I can assure you, most people I know will say, I know everything. And that is the very first fundamental of disruption, the knowledge. Because what you're disrupting is what you know. You basically disrupted yourself to evolve again, like a phoenix. You burn and you become better. And it's something I think everyone that is a professional needs to understand, that every time we've enjoyed all those, it's .com age, we're now getting better. We were disrupting another generation before us. And then they were basically having these conferences back then. The Gen Zs are coming now. We are saying, Gen Zs, they are this way, they are that way. So whether we like it or not, something has to come. But sorry, let me go back to your question.
All right. So what do you think most people are getting wrong about the future of work?
Well, I think it's for me, maybe in my position, I try to understand everyone's viewpoint from a side of, okay, you know what do they really want? People come to me and say, let's work from home. I'm like, okay, why? But I think the point is, we need to understand that the workplace is evolving. We're now in an age where people are asking themselves, why do I need 20 years experience to become a CEO? Why do I need 15 years experience to become my head of HR? For me, the world is moving from a place where sorry. So I'll tell you why. The reason is because when you speak to an average person that is below 25, the way they're thinking about you is like, why are you the one there, not me? It's more like, why do you even deserve this respect I'm giving you? But for me, I always ask myself, if, let's say I tell somebody they are fired, what do I do to them after that? Nothing. They can easily just get up and beat me up, and I can't do anything. Because it's like a golden bazooka problem. When you fire it, you're done. So I think for me, my projection of the future of work is that we're going from a structural system to a bounty system, whereby people will start rewarding who can give them the performance they deserve. I'm sitting down, I'm looking at my head of finance, and I'm an analyst, and I'm looking at the man, he's not doing anything. And I feel, okay, you know what, if I can solve this problem in 20 minutes, why do I need him? And to me, that's how I grew my career. And I tell people this, when you have a boss that is very good, that's a bad boss. Me, I like bosses that are very bad. I like people that are inefficient. To be honest, when you give me someone that doesn't know, if I walk in a place and you tell me, this guy is very bad, he doesn't know what he's doing, I'm like, thank God. At least now I can solve problems. People like me are very bad for young guys because we are solving problems every day. So before they grow, they have to work extra hard. When you have people that are laid back, oh my God, it's a blessing. So when people say, my boss doesn't do anything, I'm like, you've just been presented with a big opportunity that you don't understand. So for me, the future of work is going into a place where people start becoming more problem-oriented to say, this is a problem company A have. Like you said, you ask yourself, how many companies are suffering about the same thing? And that's going to be what people are doing. Like, okay, this is a problem. The whole tech world is filled with, people have banking apps, but they want payment that is more personalized. That's an entire idea of a company that gets $1 billion in valuation. They want this tiny thing. So the world is going to move into a place where the reward system is not going to be about, I have these 20 lines of bureaucracy, you need to go through 20 years. And I keep, sorry, there's this thing. When I got out of school, I did this spreadsheet. And I'm like, okay, if my salary was 150K, this was like, I was 19. And I pulled up this Excel sheet and I said, put 150K, and I put 50% increase every 6 months. And I realized that there's no way I'm buying a Bugatti before I'm 75.
Wow.
And I said, it cannot work like this. So every time I go to a company, I'm like, if I cannot solve the problem in 6 months, it's not the place I should be. So in 6 months, I'm already bored. The world is going to move into that system where people want to solve problems to achieve their own goals. So what are people getting wrong is to understand that everyone wants to send their kids to Harvard. Everybody you recruit as an HR head have a dream. And it seems that this age, we are more focused on them doing the work we give them than about them doing the work, achieving the goal they have. We want to tell our stories. We want to be, oh yeah, amazing, I went from Mushin to Banana Island. The other guy wants to say the same thing. So how are we helping those people fulfill their dreams? Then people tell you loyalty. I personally don't want a staff that is loyal to me. Personally. I don't want them to be loyal. If I cannot give you the value strong enough for you to stay, move on. But I would dare you to leave me because I know I will give you value. So that's my own way of life.
Wow. The future of work. I think we need to clap for that. Yeah, I think that's a clapping moment. The future of work is tough, ladies and gentlemen. Artificial intelligence is coming for you. Yeah, that's one. Yeah, the future is here. They say that 75% of the workforce will be millennials by 2025, next year. They say, right, that 50% of your skills, your current skills, will be obsolete by 2025. And beyond 2025, you have to upskill every 6 months. Did you hear that? You have to upskill every 6 months. So let me turn to your neighbor and say, Omo, it's coming.
And to add to that, it means that every JD that has 3 years work experience is invalid.
Let it sink in.
Technically, you only need 2 years work experience for everything.
Yeah. Yeah. So the 25-year-old is taking that HR director's role. Did you hear me? Organizations are going to give the 24-year-old their work because they understand the new marketplace. So it's irrelevant the fact that you've done 30 years. If you do not upskill, if you are not current, and that's the reason why we're here. I mean, we're going to be having conversations because we're going to be prompting you with 2 videos, but let me not let the cat out of the bag. We're going to be playing 2 videos soon, right? And it's going to prompt us to have conversations. We have to self-disrupt. So, Amida, there are different reports and different, research that have been done, right? What do we need to do? You say 2 years max, 3 years max, right? What do we need to do? What do employers do? What do employees do to begin to quickly, because it's next year, to quickly build the skills of their people?
Well, I think the building the skill is one. I think more importantly is that HR industry as a whole need to understand that the role of HR is to manage resources that happens to be human beings. And when you manage resources, if you say you're managing funds for somebody, for example, and you don't know where to invest it, you basically would lose all the money. The same thing happens. I think these days HR has become more about getting people to do the job than about understanding the resource they have. We're in this meeting in IHS back then, and they had this whole long list of things that people should do before they can get into IHS. And I was on the panel, and I said, okay, technically, I wouldn't have gotten into IHS based on this. I had a 2-2, I went to OSU, I didn't have a master's degree, I didn't have anything, I was just a guy with a 2-2, and I from Magowe, that's all. And the guy said, really? So he pulled up my CV and he was like, this is a guy from the UK. And he was like, oh, wow. I said, so yes, that's why that whole thing you're doing is nonsense. So we've come to the point where we've set up standards. That, you must meet this bench. This is that shiny object that comes in. But people that would really rule the world would never be. You can't spot them. I don't think it's possible. I don't think anyone in Nigeria could have picked out Tinubu anytime 25 years ago. I was in Alimosho the first time I saw him back then. He came to fix a road in Moshalashi. And he was just a guy with a pipe in his hand, and that's all. And I was like, okay, maybe that's the governor. But nobody ever talked about him, about, this is a future. You see, I always say the worst thing, when they call me 40 under 40, I always say, okay, now I'm not 40 anymore. So what do they call me now? 40 over 40? Whatever it is, whatever award or anything you get, it doesn't change. You're the one that knows what is in your pocket. No matter what anybody is telling us, we need to keep telling ourselves, is this the best skill my staff can have? It's not just about building the skill, it's about continuously probing that question. And that's your star that you think is a star. Is he really the best star available? If you trained everybody, I used to tell my old CEO, I said, do you think they give all of us the same company, you'll be the one with the best? I'm a CEO because I happen to be in the right position at the right time. Am I the best manager in my company now? I don't think so. I think I have people that have better potential to be CEOs than me, but unfortunately, I'm the one here. But the point is, we all need to understand that whole idea that, this guy, we need to invest a lot in this guy to make him this, at the end of the day, is about continuously understanding the people, understanding their ambitions, understanding where they want to go, and the drive behind them. Some people do simple process. I always say, be careful of the guy you give a job, and he finds a way to do it quicker. That is the guy you should be worried about. On his own. You didn't ask him. You just say, do this job, this is the process. And he just says, no, I want to do it a better way. That's the guy to be careful of. So, we need to continuously understand the team. And not just that, every training we do, every form of conversations we have needs to be targeted towards what is really the driving force. Is this a long-term guy or the short-game guy? We need both of them. So it's not about, he's not going to stay with us for 50 years. You might not even be in business for 50 years. So, honestly, I think the biggest form of boldness is knowing that your next breath could be your last, and still have the courage to go forward.
So, having said that, right, Pan-African Towers is a bit of a different company. How has your approach to building the culture, how has it evolved since you became CEO? Because, culture eats strategy for breakfast. If your culture is wrong, forget strategy. If your people behave wrongly, forget your vision. So, you took over as CEO. Has it been the same culture? Has it evolved? And how did you do it? What did you do?
I think my HR is here, and I remember the first time she came to my office and said, we need to do performance management. And I said, we have made the target. We have met our EBITDA. Then you want to go and tell everybody they didn't perform. I said, no, that's not the way my own way works. I said, if I've met the EBITDA, everybody get their bonus. Whether you perform, I can give you money for doing more than the other guy. But if everyone in my team, and there's this principle we've had, it's the weakest link principle in my head. And it's like, every time you think a staff is bad and you want to replace him, you're going to have to go through a scenario where the new guy will have to fit himself into the chain. In most cases, the new guy always pushes somebody else down to the weakest link spot. And your best guy turns out to be the worst guy now. It's a small population. That's why I think somebody is the best. When you bring in the other people from outside, you might find out that all the guys you're really celebrating before, you've been wasting your money. So, for me, I don't try to say, so the way we approach things at Pan-African Tower is that once we have hit our EBITDA, fantastic. Everybody has gotten their money, first of all. If we don't hit it, yes, let's do performance appraisal. But the company as a whole has performed. So the people have recruited to be performers and the people have recruited to be the weakest link, because I didn't put a bar and say everybody needs to be best. You recruit some people because they are your friends. Okay, they come and they didn't perform very well. Okay, what will you do? But the point is everybody else have been able to carry. So I would rather reward the new guys more for doing on top of what they have than say, oh, let's take away from this guy to pay this guy. I think we get, and that is why I always say people need to understand the goals of everyone around them. You've seen people, I play football a lot. I watch it a lot. Jadon Sancho left Manchester United. As somebody that was said, oh, he's actually bad. Went to another club performing great. So the environment you create for people determine how best they can be. If somebody was not performing with you, they can become the next best thing. And I always say, so basically creating a culture where everybody feel like this is home is more important than anything else. And for me, I tell everybody, you can fight any staff. I'm happy to support any fight. But the moment one of you is not happy to come to work, then that is where you start. Me, I cannot be on the side of that. Any conflict going on, everybody must be ready to come to work the next morning. And I always say, no matter what you do to me, the moment you say, you put an emotional word in there, you can, even if I see in an email, I am not happy with, I stop. At that point, whatever your position is, it's time to drop and say, can we have a meeting? Can we sit and address this? Because emotions is basically one of the biggest things that could destroy so many things. And in building culture, you need to avoid those fail-safes. Say, this one, when you see it, somebody is emotional, toxicity, they talk, everything. So at Pan-African Towers, what we basically do is no matter what we do, everybody needs to understand that. The performance is different, but we are human beings first before we are professionals. If somebody has a problem, oh, it's not in our policy, and like, oh my God, what do we do? It's still my problem, but because if you want people to really focus on work, you need to take away every problem they have. Then they will focus on that work. So for me, PAT is about creating that organization where people could feel, I want to go to work the next morning. And that energy alone. If we come to work and we just look at each other's face, okay, it means tomorrow will come. So there is not really, we are very unserious in our seriousness. Let me put it that way.
Wow. So that's a combination of performance and, building a family. Very, very cool. So I'm going to ask one last question, and that centers around diversity and inclusion. Yeah. What advice would you give, HR leads, towards ensuring that they create a very diverse team? There's a lot of inclusion and equity.
Okay, first of all, you are managing resources, but you understand one resource, which is the CEO. Every HR person can tell, this is what my CEO would do if this is happening. They understand their CEO very well, but forget that they have thousands of resources behind them. So I think HR people need to understand that understanding what they manage is more important than keeping the job. And I'll say this in a way.
Please repeat it.
Understanding what they manage is more important than keeping the job itself.
Wow.
And the reason is because I always say, in my book I mentioned something. I said, if you think your boss did not understand you're playing politics, then I think you're just fooling yourself. But the idea of performance management is to regulate politics in the first place. So everyone coming and they never disagree with me, I'm like, okay, I understand. It's the reason why somebody will always pick the opinion of somebody you think is always the rebel in the room. And you're like, what do you think? Because they understand everybody is just playing politics. And that's the idea. So everyone understands when politics is being played. So for me, understanding the resource. Two, whatever the case is, it's important to always, the only reason you have strong people in the room is because they are weak people. My mom told me once and said, I grew up in Egbeda, there is an average neighborhood has people smoking weed and everything. She was like, don't go to those people to talk to them. I said, you should be happy that I'm not the one smoking the weed. That at least somebody's son is smoking it so that I don't have to smoke it. So let's just leave me. Since that day, she never spoke to me about them again. And till today, I'm still very close to all those people. But the point is, your strong guy is only strong because the weaker guys are keeping him there. So when you pick that guy and say you are the successor of the CEO, don't worry. The other guy too wants to be CEO somewhere. That's why you go and create a competing company with all your secret and say, we used to do it this way. That. And the funny thing is like, at this, when IHS was growing, we didn't know what we were creating until we left. When we left, the whole world was chasing us about. We're like, so we're this valuable? Nobody knew. One of my colleagues, she's Australian. She called me, was like, you know what? I didn't know how much people were looking for me until I left IHS. Because you might think your guys are, this guy is okay, not so dear. Trust me, let him leave you. Then you understand that the whole world was just waiting. They probably were chasing him now, you don't know. So the point is, understanding the resource and basically continuously benchmarking your people in the right way. They are not necessarily weak. They are not necessarily very strong. They're just the ones in that position at that time. And so companies need to be built on the basis of what is really, how do we help an individual employee achieve the goal they have, rather than how do we get them to do the work. They came there to do the work in the first place. Why won't they do it? So the only thing clear is what he needs to do for you. What is not clear is what you need to do for him, except they pay.
Wow. So before we go into rapid fire.
But sorry, I think I want you to answer the same question. It's not just me.
What question?
Yes. So what advice would you give to the HR leaders we have here? Because I think it's quite important to, for me, I'm always going to be able to speak only from another side, a side that I think I will also be good to hear this from your side of it as well.
All right. There are a few skills that artificial intelligence cannot take over. And, Amida spoke about you ensuring that you manage the resources that are at your disposal rather than wanting to just keep that role and that jobs. So instead of job security, go in there to make impact. Now, if you really, really want to ensure that your guys stay, then you have to add value to them. And the value that must be added today, they're not the common things that we are thinking. So, for example, I'm going to share a few based on 5 years of research. Number one skill is emotional intelligence. So, research says that 85% of all success in any chosen field of endeavor is dependent on a combination of spiritual and emotional intelligence. So, if you truly want your guys to deliver for the organization, they have to live successful lives, and they need emotional intelligence. So don't train them for the organization. Don't say, I'm sending you for training for. I want to add value to your life is the key. That's the language. And because of that, right, there is this emotional intelligence program that I'd like to sponsor you to attend. Because emotional intelligence is going to help him in his marriage. It's going to help him as a father. It's going to help him to develop the right networks and the right people. It's going to help him grow and progress. So when you develop the guy, when you invest in the guy knows that you have invested in him, right? He spends averagely 8 to 10 hours on the job. Where do you think he would deploy the skill? On the job. First skill, emotional intelligence. And emotional intelligence is about emotions. It's about understanding that emotions drive our decisions, and our decisions drive our actions, and our actions produce our outcomes. So, at the very epicenter of all human performance or productivity or lack of it lies the emotion. But fundamentally, your emotion requires your belief. So your belief influences your emotion, and your thoughts, your thinking influences your beliefs, and the environment influences your thinking. So HR also needs to start to recreate the physical environment. What does your office look like? Does it feel like home? Have you seen the new Apple office? In fact, sorry, not office. Have you seen the new Apple City? Go and check it out. Have you seen what Samsung offices look like? Have you seen what Microsoft offices look like? And your office is still looking like it looked 20 years ago. The millennials will not come. They will not be comfortable. So you have to change what the environment looks like. There are offices now that have sleeping capsules. Law firms in Niger, that is, they encourage people to take sleeping breaks. So those capsules are programmed. You cannot sleep more than 30 minutes. But when you go into those capsules, that sleep, ooh, is sweet. Now, research says that if you are able to sleep 20 minutes during the day, what we call siesta, it protects women, right? From the 37%, it reduces the chance of you having a heart attack or cardiovascular disease by 37% if you sleep 20 minutes during the day. How many of us eat on our tables? How many of us here? How many of us really take that 1 hour lunch break? Anyone? How many of us? You see? Just one. Two. We don't even take the lunch break. Do you know why lunch break is important? So that you can reboot. So that you can take time out. But within that 1 hour, you should encourage your workforce to go and take a nap. Go to the car, put on your AC, take a 20-minute nap. Do you know what I found out? 67% of CEOs and top executives, they take game break. Did you hear what I said? Game break. No wonder they outperform every other staff. So, do you encourage game breaks?
So I play 3 hours game. Maybe.
You play 3 hours. So you see? He plays 3 hours. I do average about 45 minutes to 1 hour a day. Games. And gaming is a different kettle of fish. A lot of us think gaming is negative. Gaming is so positive, it's unreal. Oh yeah, it's built on 4 philosophies, but today is not to have that conversation, right? But you have to create the right environment. So that's the second thing. The third thing that HR needs to do is creative thinking, critical reasoning. You have to develop the ability to critically think and to have problem-solving skills. You can't train it. Hello? You cannot train it. You can only coach it. Because you have to take them, first of all, run a diagnosis of where they are. Identify where their gaps are, and then get a coach to begin to help them. So critical reasoning, problem-solving skills, very, very important. Another skill that HR must invest heavily in is innovation and creativity. Oh yeah. Your guys must be innovative and creative. Another very important one is design thinking. The way we create products and services is obsolete. Obsolete. We go and find out what the market's problem is. Then we now go and create a solution. By the time we introduce the product, it is obsolete. So your guys need to be able to anticipate the future. So do you have an R&D? Do you have an R&D, a functional R&D department that is anticipating the problems in the next 5 years and creating solutions such that by the time you have tested it and followed the design thinking process, right, and you introduce it into the market, you are the one that is telling the market that they have a problem and this is the solution. They haven't even identified that they have a problem yet. And that's what the likes of Apple do, right? When we were carrying headphones and Walkman, Steve Jobs stood and presented, what did he present? iPod. And people were wondering, what? iPod. Then they didn't rest there. They realized that, you know what, people will carry phone, people will carry iPod. No, let's merge it. The principle of self-creative destruction. You must train your guys. You must coach your guys to be able to creatively destroy. That is, they create a product that is more relevant and significant, that it destroys the other product. If not, your products, your services, your organization is just going to die. So let's wrap this up. I read your book. I love it.
Thank you.
Yeah. So share with us the fundamental principle behind EPE. She called it EPE.
It's actually just a principle.
Yes. EPE. Enter, perform, exit. What's the philosophy behind that?
I think it comes down to it's always about this whole idea I say about 6 months, right? For me, I realize that at every stage in our lives, we'll always feel one of two things. Either you're bored or you're scared. When you're bored, it means that your skill is too high for where you are. When you're scared, it's the opposite. Your skill is too low and you're worried about. So it comes to the same thing. So every time I've worked, it's always about, okay, this is me. When I come in, enter was just about understanding how to get into opportunities and the rest. The performance stage was the important one. But the book wasn't really about, because I felt talking about hard work and the rest was the really overstretch. It was more about office politics, how do you create legacies and the rest, and all those sort of. So I think the office politics side is something I would encourage people to read. I think it's something people have not talked about enough. But I think the most important aspect of it is actually the exit end, because you must know when it is done. And when it is done, it is done. There's nothing anybody could do about it. And I felt my whole career is about that whole recycling that same principle. Now, okay, we've done it, let's go. We've done it, let's go. When I came into PAT, it was, I had two shareholders and they were very supportive, very great people. But then they said, okay, you know what? We need to leave. We want to go. They were going to sell PAT to an external, some foreign company. I remember that day was May 2023. I called one of them and said, you know what? I want to buy the company. He said, do you know how much it is? I said, yes. And I said, I'm going to pay 2 times whatever these guys are giving you. He said, so where are you going to find the money? I said, don't worry, give me a week. He said, it's impossible, don't worry. 1 week later, I showed up with 4x the money, and I was ready to buy. And he was like, where did you find all these people? I said, don't worry. I still think people like me enough in Lagos, so we're going to go ahead. Now, the point is, what I'm trying to establish is, at every point, when you're in a business, that whole idea of fear / boredom is always important. When you're in a business and you feel that the business is now able to do far more than what it's doing now, that is technically boredom. A CEO, in my own mind, that's why I feel Nigeria needs more talent CEOs, not founder CEOs. I'm sorry to say they're great founder CEOs, but I think we need to coach more people to coach that aspect of people's lives. Because the moment you see that there is a change in trajectory, it introduces a new phase. So my own way was always, I was able to understand when you bring me to fix a problem of reporting. After you've reported, it's now reporting. You're no longer solving any new problem. From that point, I am bored. I just give it to somebody else and say, I'm delegating to you. Thank you very much. What else can I do? IHS was the first company I stayed more than a year. Basically, I worked in 14 companies in less than 20-something years. I was just there. If I'm there and I do the job, oh, thank you very much. The next guy is looking for me. Thank you. I go. When I came to IHS, they were able to create multi-levels. So when I solve a problem, my CEO understood that Amida is going to be. So he always gives me something in addition. I'm like, oh yeah, something nice. So I'm excited for 6 months and I'm bored again. Then he excites me again. And on. So the book was just about how do you understand that cycle. You go, perform, exit. When you exit, you move on to the next one. And that is where disruption even comes in. Disruption is an exit from what is status quo, basically. And maybe it might take more time to warn us than a normal losing a job. And when I lost the job was when the principal dawned on me, oh, this is what I've been doing. Okay, so what can I do again? Because you never know. Exit would come anyways, whether you like it or not.
Wow. And the key lesson from that last statement is you are going to be managing more people like Amida. Yep. They are bored. Let me tell you. When they come into your organization and you do not challenge them, if they find no meaning and they don't buy into what you are doing, they are gone. And guess what? Forget those days of in lieu, HR, in lieu of your salary. They will drop resignation now and dash you the money. And you will ask them, if you are lucky, that you have a relationship with them, you will ask them, where are you going? They will say, nowhere. Now they think security, we are the ones that would think, how would I pay house rent? How would I pay? They don't think it. Are you listening? Hey. Yeah, well, don't gas, man. All right. Rapid fire.
Okay.
Remote work or office work?
I like office.
Me is remote. Yeah, I have come to accept remote work. The next one. If you had to take a 6 month sabbatical tomorrow, what would you do?
What would I do?
Yeah, 6 month sabbatical. What would you do in those 6 months?
I'll still be working.
You what?
Because the point is, for me, it's like there was this thing. It's like, I don't know how to, but the point is, I probably will not touch Pan-African Towers work if I'm on sabbatical, but I will always have something I'm doing. It's just, I think the biggest state of rest for me is doing something that I enjoy.
Okay.
For me, I've never really been, I rarely go on leave because I feel I'm on leave every day. My routine is structured in a way that I rest, I do, everything is like, I get my full cycle every day. I play my game, I play games I used to play games on a very competitive level. I go to sport on Sunday, I play football twice a week, I do everything. When I leave work at 4, Pan-African Towers, 4 o'clock, you won't meet us open. There is no late night work. In fact, if you are working there, it's you. So remote work can start from 4 p.m. At 4, I'm the first one to pick my bag, I'm gone. Because I used to stay till 10 p.m. in IHS. I still left. So it's not that serious. Honestly, it's really not that serious. You would work. We used to have this secretary in GT Bank. So we opened this branch in Abulegba. And Tolu will have things to scan that were this big on her desk. She scans, then we keep replacing, boom, because accounts were coming a lot. One day, Tolu fell ill and she didn't come to work. The invoices didn't double. They were the same level she left it. Me, I would have thought it was like going to be stacking. No, it didn't change. It was the same level. She came, scanned down, and another level came. I'm like, this work is not going to finish. It will remain. So 20 years from now, the company you set up today will still be alive by God's grace. But guess what? You won't be. You might not be there.
Wow. If I was taking a 6 month sabbatical, right, I would be I'll be delving into finding the history of Africa. I have stumbled on some very interesting information about us. And I see us differently, Africans, and I see Africa differently. And I realize that there is a very intentional and deliberate system that is trying to wipe off our history, because our history and everything that we did and created was stolen. Oh yeah. You know, the Greeks conquered Egypt, and they renamed so many things, and they owned it. Then the Romans conquered the Greeks. Then they renamed it and owned it. But where did it all come from? They say that the cradle of civilization is Africa. It actually is. And guess what? It comes back to Ile-Ife. Man, so I would spend 6 months of my life, yeah. Comes back to Ile-Ife. That's true. Do you know that there were Yoruba pharaohs? Do you know? Do you know that there were Yoruba pharaohs in Egypt? Do you know? Oh, man. Yeah, so, you know, I'll dedicate 6 months of doing it every day, 12, 14, 16. In fact, I no go sleep. Because, you know, if we can know where we're coming from, then we can create a new future for ourselves. Yeah, so that's what I will do in 6 months.
Interesting.
Yeah. So thank you very much, Amida. It's been phenomenal having a conversation with you. And I hope that you guys were able to take a few things away from it. Over to you.
Ladies, gentlemen, please put the hands together and appreciate such a depth of conversation.